Hey everybody, thanks for joining me in the first of a series of videos of building a do-it-yourself bass guitar kit. Now in this first video, I'm going to go over the unboxing of the kit and why I selected the vendor that I selected. Hope you enjoy.
Okay, so here it is. Now, before I do this, let me just say that I've already looked into this, already cracked it open just to make sure there weren't any surprises. I would have hated to have opened this the first time on video and then turn out something was broken or something was wonky, and then there'd be me having a stroke and a conniption on video. So I already cracked it open to kind of take an initial peek, but for the sake of argument, here it is, and let's see what we have. So it's pretty straightforward for a kit. So first things first. Yeah, it's packed reasonably well. I was actually surprised. It looks a little wonky because of the cardboard and stuff, but it was packed reasonably well for shipment coming from, I think it comes from Canada. I'm not sure. I think it comes from Ontario, and then came down to me. I'm in the kind of Midwest South border, Northwest Arkansas. So got here relatively quickly and in good shape. So here's the body. I decided to go with, now you had a few choices. A lot of these kits come in basswood. Basswood's kind of a soft wood. I really don't even know really that much about it, but when I saw that these guys offered a mahogany body for a jazz bass, I decided to go that route. Mahogany, just more solid, better grain. I want to try and keep it as natural as I can. As you can see, it's actually a really nice grain to this. A lot of character to it. Looks to be 3-ply, maybe even 4 from here, 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 and here offhand. But yeah, I mean, this is actually pretty darn nice. And from the way it looks, I got number 100, so hooray for me. So there you go. Now, the only thing that I'm curious about is, I know that most guitars you have to have a ground wire underneath the bridge, and I'm not seeing a hole for that wire unless it's underneath this part right here. There is no, I'm not even sure. Well, there is a wire coming from here. Now this is the pickup wire. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do a little more research. I'm not sure if you can really see that. Normally there would be a hole here that would come out to here for a ground wire, so you can ground it to your bridge. It might be a little bit of a different monster. It may have a hole here to where I can tie it with a screw and then tie it to the pickup. I don't know. I'll have to take a look. In fact, just for curiosity's sake, what we can do is we can pop off the pick guard. In fact, I'll do that a little bit later, and I'll film that. Let's get to the next thing. With the kit being what it is, this over here, the next important thing, the thing that I was really concerned with, especially with any kit, is going to be the neck. I mean, my opinion, the neck is probably the most important part. I mean, you can have whatever body you want, but if your neck isn't top notch, if your neck isn't in good condition, what's the point? Everything happens on the neck. So, so they packed it, once again, they packed it really well. Once again, it's number 100. And as I take this out, let's take it out. You can tell it's really nice. Now, I'm not sure if this is a true rosewood. I thought there was an issue with importing rosewood for guitar necks. But this is really, really sharp looking. I'm not sure how well you're catching it or how well the camera's picking up on it. But there's a lot of character coming on through this. These nice little swirls and such. And you know, that in itself is kind of cool. Now, looking at it, this is a maple neck. Has a sealer on it. That's another thing I'll mention is the guitars come sealed. They have a I believe a poly resin sealer on these things in the first place, which they do it for, I guess, climate control, humidity. These things are probably made, sealed, and packed and stored away and put in a stockroom for, you know, who knows how long. So these things are sealed to a degree. Now this, it's very smooth. It's really nice. Note the pre-drills for the machine heads. But as I mentioned earlier, one of the reasons why I went with this vendor is they do all the fret work for you. A lot of the lesser expensive kits, you have to do a lot of the fret work. And what I mean by that is they'll clamp them on there. They'll put the frets on, but they won't really dress them. And what I mean by dressing is, once again, I'm not sure how well you can see or tell, just the beveling, I guess the doming, if you will, the crowning, I guess is the proper term, the crowning of the frets are done really nice. Like I said, some of the lesser expensive kits out there, they don't do that. If they do it, it's probably kind of crude. I've heard that when people get these things, they run their hands across it and it's like grating cheese. It's just really, really harsh. But these folks at Solo, they do a really nice job. The frets look really, really nice. I mean, like I said, they're crowned. Probably could be polished a little bit, which I'll cover that topic when I'm actually working on the neck later on. The nut, standard plastic nut, looks pretty good to me, but we'll see. I'm not a huge fan of plastic nuts, but at the same time, my first and favorite bass guitar that I have is a G&L Fender bass, and that has a plastic nut, and it's been fine for the last 34 years. So yeah, a little tiny ding right here on the top. Once again, not worried about it. Gives a character. Looks like the truss rod's easy and accessible to get to, and once again, numbered 100 to match this. And there I go. I just tapped that. So hey, I just added more character to it. So yeah, so if we do just a quick dry fit, get this in here, if I can kind of get it to stay. This is roughly what it's going to look like. Now, one thing I did notice, there is a little bit of play, but I mean, really, once I get this clamped down, once I get the screws, I tear up the joint. Once I get the screws in, it should be okay. I'm not too worried about it. Plus, a little bit later on, as I am working on this neck, I'm thinking about doing a modification that I have with a lot of Fenders have this, and it's on my G&L Fender that I mentioned before. It's something called a micro tilt adjustment, and essentially it's a screw. It's an Allen screw that comes up right about here. I'll tilt this again. It comes up right about here. Small Allen screw comes up through the back to a small plate that's marked right here or inserted right here. And what it does, it does exactly that. It's a micro tilt. So a lot of times if you're having issues with the action and stuff, people will put shims. But the micro tilt adjustment, what it does, it'll automatically tilt it up for you. So you don't have to take apart the neck or anything. You just loosen the strings up a little bit, loosen up the screws that are holding the neck in the first place, and then adjust the micro tilt action. And I'm actually thinking about doing that as another modification to the neck. Another thing I'm thinking about in terms of modifications for the neck, once again, this is just my own thing, my own deal. You don't have to do this with these kits. Is I may replace the fret markers with a mother of pearl, just to give it a little more character, just kind of spiffy it up. But so yeah, so there you go. So also, I'll mention this one other thing. A lot of the lesser expensive kits out there, they just give you like a big paddle. Now you can shape it any way you want. It's kind of cool. It's just a big block. Or it has the pre-drills for your machine tuners or for your machine heads. But once again, I'm not fully equipped to do all that. I suppose I could go out and buy a saw and go through the whole rigmarole, but you know what? It's already pre-shaped, so a nice shape. I dig it, and I think it works for me, and I didn't want to go through that process of having to dick around with that. So there you go. So there's the neck. Now, the next part. And there really isn't a lot to this. I mean, it is what it is. So let's kind of get down to it. They give you a cable, and let's crack this open real quick. They give you a pretty cheap little cable. And then your two main hex keys. The first one being right here for your truss rod for adjusting your neck. And this little guy right here will be for the adjustment of the hex head screws for your bridge. In fact, I'll turn around this way. This will be mounted like so. And so what this will do is this will be the adjustment for those. Good to have on hand if it's your first kit and you don't have such tools. I have oodles of hex keys and hex key sets and things like that. I'm not too worried about it. So, but at least they give them to you. So that's kind of cool. The next thing let's go over the bridge. A lot of people with these kits, the first thing they say is, oh, the bridges are kind of pieces of crap or they're cheap. You know, it's just a Chinese bridge. A lot of these kits probably are Chinese made. This isn't bad. I mean, I was reasonably surprised or impressed with this. Now, there is a little bit of play, and once the strings are on it and through it, it should be okay. But it actually has a little bit of weight to it. It doesn't seem flimsy or anything like that. Now, that doesn't mean I won't replace it down the road. I have seen other bridges that I like that might be a little more beefier. But for the most part, for the sake of argument, and as I've mentioned before, I'm going to keep this as stock as possible, other than whatever little flourishes I may give it. Like I said, whether I do a mother of pearl inlay on the fret markers or a decal on the headstock or what have you, I'm going to keep most of this as stock as possible. And it looks like, just for the sake of grins, the pre-drill holes are lining up perfectly. So that's a good thing. And as I just kind of look across, looks like it'll be pretty spot on. So that's a good thing. It's kind of a relief. Once again, it's a kit, and it only costs X amount of dollars. It wasn't the cheapest on the market that you can get off of eBay or whatever. But at the same time, it wasn't the most expensive thing either. So, you still kind of get what you pay for, but so far so good. I'm actually pleasantly surprised so far. So yeah. So next thing, let's go with the tuners. So here you go. These are the tuners. I'm gonna give you the 4. Not too bad. Once again, I've seen a lot of YouTube videos where people are kind of complaining that they're kind of cheap or flimsy. I don't know, maybe it's just me. Maybe I lucked out. Maybe it's the vendor. But these are pretty darn good in my estimation. Um, doesn't mean I won't replace them down the road. Let's see what happens once I get them on and get some tension on them. We'll see how well they do stay in tune. But initially from the get-go and out of the gate, seemed pretty darn good to me. So you get your 4 tuning heads, machine heads, whatever you want to call them, tuners. You get your bushings. That'll go right here, right there, along with the screws. And you get, a few people often ask, in fact, here, let me take this out real quick. I've seen on some posts in different areas, people get confused. And someone said, well, hey, I got this extra part, and they don't know what to do with it. Well, what this is, they don't have a pre-drilled hole. Well, there might be a mark there. I don't know. I don't think that's pre-drilled. I think it's just a blemish. But this is what's considered a string tree, and it'll go on right about, I would say there, maybe, yeah, probably right about there. And what it does is separates the strings for your 4th and 3rd string. Kind of keeps them from bumping into each other as it's strung along here and as it comes closer down to the nut. Most basses that I've seen have them, especially Fenders. And so that's what that rascal is. And so there you go. Next thing they give you a set of strings. I'll tell you right now, I will not use these strings. I mean, maybe I'll use them in the first initial stringing it up and seeing that I get tone and everything else. But boy, these are funky. I mean, and if you can see, I don't know how well I'm getting this into the frame. They're kind of a light gauge. But one of the things you'll notice is they don't have nylon wrappings. It's like they had just a long spool of bass cable and just went snip, 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 snip. And yeah, it's actually kind of trippy. You almost can see the core and everything. Like I said, I'll string them up with this initially just to check it and play it and get tone and stuff. Make sure it functions. But after that, these will be trashed. Won't use them. I'll use my preferred string. Probably go with like a Roto Sound or something like that. Okay, next, let's move on. Neck plate. Basic neck plate. 4 strong screws. I've heard, once again, because I've done a ton of research on these things, a lot of people kind of complain about the screws. I'll cautiously go along and see how well they work. If I feel they're not cutting the mustard, or seem like they strip really easily, if the heads are really soft, I'll just go to my local big box hardware store and get some real screws. Things that are stronger, things that won't strip. If that turns out to be the case. Hopefully that won't be it. Hopefully I won't have to worry about it. But yeah, here is your neck plate. Exactly as it sounds. You got your screws and you've got your neck plate. And it comes with looks like a little padded, well, it looks like, actually it's plastic from what it looks. Like a plastic grommet, if you will. They'll go on the back. So, okay, cool. This rascal, now here's kind of the extra parts, or not even extra parts. These are the parts that you need for, if you can see that, these are going to be your strap buttons. Strap buttons will go, here's the pre-drill hole for this one, and the other one is right there for your straps. I may modify, once again, later down the road, modify and get strap locks. It comes with your screws for your bridge, and comes with 3 small screws for your controls. And then it's funny, I don't know, it's funny, they seem to give you a little teeny tiny bit of soldering wire, so you can solder your connections for your electronics. And I'll get to that in a second, but it just, I don't know, kind of perplexed me. It's like, okay, cool. You know what I mean? I don't know. It just seemed odd to me because I figure, you know, if you have a soldering iron, you have to get your solder or you're going to have your solder anyway. But, okay, cool. Why not? And then this rascal right here. As I was saying, I was kind of concerned because a lot of times there's a pre-drilled hole that comes from here into your cavity for your ground wire. So that way you don't have, well, that way you're grounded and don't have an odd hum. Plenty of wire, but they didn't pre-drill. Unless I'm tripping out and there's a hole that comes up from here or one of the other connections, or if it's done differently or entirely through here. In fact, I'm going to pop this open just to kind of get a better idea, but I may have some extra work to do in which I'm going to have to drill from here into this wiring cavity. Once again, you know, kind of you get what you pay for, and it's a kit. And I'm down with it because, like I said, I want to put my own touch into it. I want to put my own sweat into it because I'm hoping by the time it's all said and done, this, you know, other than being a fun little project to do, you know, it'll really have my touch into it. You know, just add that extra something, if you will. Okay. And so last but not least is, for lack of a better term, I'll call it the control panel. Now, once again, with this manufacturer of kits, they pre-wired everything for you. In fact, now here's an oddity. Now here appears to be a ground wire. Now I have to take another peek at this. Okay, so here's a ground wire. Where is this supposed to go? And what's this blue one supposed to do? I'll have to dig a little deeper, but the nice thing about this is already pre-wired, ready to go. The only thing I'm going to have to do is solder these to the appropriate spots. In fact, they will go, let's look on the middle post there. So I'm kind of tuck this in, and I'll have to dig a little deeper. One of the things I will say, in fact, here, let me kind of place this in here, just kind of give it the look, so you guys get a rough idea. One of the things with this, okay, that's roughly it. Yeah, it's not too bad. Okay. Let's put that there. Pardon me while I talk to myself and try and fiddle with this thing and get it in there. In fact, you guys will see me doing this later when I'm actually trying to get this hooked up. So that lines up there. So, okay. I gotta tuck that in there a little bit better. Once again, screw holes match up, line up really well. There is, one thing kind of bummed me out a little bit. There is a blemish on the chrome plating that they did. Kind of a ding right there. Is it gonna bug me? Not really, not enough to where I'm gonna bitch about it. But I may, once again, in the future, I may just get a customized plate. I may not go with chrome already. I've just put my fingerprints all over this thing. It's driving me crazy because now I got fingerprints all over it. So I may go with something matching, more like maybe black to go with the color of the pickups. Maybe something to go with this pick guard. In fact, I'm not even thrilled with the pick guard, to be honest. I may look into getting a custom pick guard. Once again, probably black or I don't know, something different. And knowing me, hope this isn't a precursor of me dealing with all the wires. Yeah, there we go. I may go with a black pick guard because that's just kind of my thing. It's just my style. I'm not into this whole kind of old school mother of pearl or mother of toilet seat pick guard shimmery thing. Some people like it. It's not really my thing. But we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, so it comes pre-wired. One of the things I will say kind of bummed me out. It's not a big deal. But any of you that are out there that are going to be diving into this, this normally seems like it should come with a set of instructions. Now, I've been playing with basses for a long time. This is very, very straightforward. I'm a do-it-yourselfer anyway in terms of doing stuff for the house. Pardon me, a little parched. Let me get something to drink. Okay. It didn't come with an instruction booklet. And like I said, it's not a big deal for me, but anyone doing this for their first time, I don't know, it might be a little nerve-wracking. Like I said, I'm going to have to refer to probably YouTube videos and other things on the internet, maybe even going to Fender's own website to properly wire this rascal together. I've done some soldering before in the past on smaller electronics and things like that, but I've never done a guitar. And, I mean, it looks pretty straightforward. I mean, you got two wires coming out, so it's going to have to go somewhere, and it looks like they have the corresponding blues and reds here. It's just figuring out what's the main thing. This is probably going to be the bridge pickup. This will be the bridge pickup right here, neck pickup here, and master volume right here. And just making sure that I wire it correctly. I will probably, as I mentioned, I will probably go to a Fender website and download a wiring diagram or contact the people at Solo. I hear they're really good folks to get contact with if you have any questions. I may bounce an email or two off them and say, hey, what is the exact wiring diagram and where do I connect the ground to the bridge? And so, yeah, so. And also you get one of these little things, a little thank you card. Once again, hey, if you need help, call us. Yeah, it is what it is. So yeah, so there you go. This is it. This is the unboxing of it. It's very straightforward. If you put guitars together before in the past, a lot of stuff's going to be more familiar with you. This is going to be my first bass I've ever going to put together. There are other people or other companies out there that a lot of it really comes parted out completely to where there's not even any pickups. You have to buy those separately. I didn't want to go that route. And at the same time, there's companies out there to where you can buy really high-end bodies and high-end necks and really customize what you want. I mean, even from what kind of fretboard you want to the shaping of and radius of the neck itself, to what kind of woods, to what kind of finish, yada, 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 yada. But once you're all said and done, once you get that, all you're doing is just screwing it together, and I don't know, that doesn't seem as much fun. And by the time you get done with it, once it's all said and done, you spend $1,800 for a guitar, to which I didn't really want to do that either. This is just kind of a project and a fun thing. And if this thing turns out the way I want it to turn out, by putting a lot of time into it and being patient with it. Who knows? This may be, my number one base that I use for a while. I don't think it'll compete with the other ones that I have. But who knows? I mean, as with anything, it'll turn out the way you want it with the amount of time, and amount of patience, and amount of care that you put into it. If you just rush into it and just slap it all together all slapdash, yeah, it's going to be what it is. But yeah, I'm going to try and make this pretty bitchin' once it's all said and done. So that, I guess for the last part, what I'll do is let's for curiosity's sake, let's see what's underneath this pick guard. Because I'm kind of curious to see. Because like I said, I'm really curious about that ground. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, put these here. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, just Google it or go onto YouTube, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Especially with these kits, because I mean, even if it's not a bass, let's say it's just a regular standard 6-string electric guitar, you have to ground these things. Or else what'll happen is, you'll hear a constant low radiant hum up until the time you put your fingers on it and start playing it. Then it'll stop because then you've now grounded it and you grounded yourself. But you try and do other things like grab a mic stand or whatever, and you're completing a different circuit, and you can get your ass shocked. And I kind of don't really want that. So let's see what we have. And the more I look at it, I like this mahogany body. The color's nice. In terms of finishing, in the future videos when I go on to start finishing this body and prepping it and everything, I'm going to go natural. I'm going to try and keep it roughly the same color. I thought about going red, like a red mahogany. Like you'll see like a lot of Gibsons are like that. It's pretty cool looking, but I don't know. I'll probably decide once I'm in the process of beginning to finish this thing. And we'll go from there. So, okay, so there's that. Let's take this off, and it's funny. I don't know if you can tell. Still has this little plastic condom covering on it. And so I don't know. So, does that match up? Okay, so that's the screw hole for the control plate. Okay, so just want to make sure there wasn't extra screw holes. Yeah. Huge cavity in there. That's probably not going to do anything for me. It's a monstrous cavity. There's not a sponge in here for your pickup height. A lot of times there'll be a spring that kind of presses up against the screws, and so you get a squishiness for your pickup adjustment. I don't see that. As I said, I'm going to try and keep this as stock as possible. I may modify it. If it wasn't so routed out, I'd almost not even want to. I'd almost not even want to have the pick guard on, but I will. But if I do put a pick guard on it, if I do use this one, I will. Otherwise, I may just get another one and go with a different color. One thing you can tell also with this being a kit is, I don't know, they kind of did a wonky job of modifying this. I mean, Just the routing's very rough. I mean, once again, I don't know if I have that in a frame. This is a 3-ply also. But boy, that's brutal. I'll probably finish that off a little bit. Or if I do go custom, if I do have to do any kind of customizing on a pick guard that I get from Amazon or wherever, I'll do it my way, and make it probably a little more cleaner than what it is. So anyway, so there you go. Thanks for being here for, like I said, the first in the many videos in this series of me building a solo JBK-1, a copy of a Fender Jazz bass. It's not a guitar style I have in my collection right now, and I'm really looking forward to it. Once again, no reason why I got this specific model. I played a jazz bass before and I really enjoyed it. It's a friend of mine's. Jazz basses are renowned through the world. Some of my favorite players that I take inspiration from play jazz basses. One of them being Geddy Lee nowadays. He used to play Rickenbackers. He's finally smartened up and wisened up and switched over to a Fender Jazz. So yeah, this is going to be pretty cool. So once again, thanks a lot for joining me on this premiere video, on this first video of a whole series of building this rascal. And yeah, we'll see what kind of trouble I can get into. So thanks a lot, and we'll see you soon.